Natalie just reported President Obama stepped outside conventional norms, going directly after his successor.
In a conversation with CBS 4's Jim DeFede and CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe, who's also in Delaware, we started out by asking about how that message by former President Obama has been playing out. And I would like to start out by asking you about former President Obama's extraordinary speech last night that many people say broke norms. There was no holds barred against Donald Trump, and he warned that our democracy is at stake. My question is, do the Democrats that you're talking to there believe that that speech is going to motivate people outside the Democratic base to come out and support Joe Biden?
Key words there. You said outside the Democratic base. That's a good question. We don't know that yet. Certainly it motivated Democrats who said that they were quite struck by the power of that speech, by the venue, by the tone that the former president struck, by the fact that he looked almost emotional discussing a lot of the issues that Americans face right now and his genuine concern that American democracy could be at risk. Look, the ratings last night suggest more people tuning in to see someone like him and Senator Kamala Harris speak out. So it very well could have reached people that may be yearning for a different kind of presidential leadership. But certainly Obama put it all on the line last night in a way that no former president really ever has taken on a sitting president, at least not in the television age. To see him so strongly rebuke Mr. Trump, not only for perhaps being unqualified for the job, but for not showing interest in it, which echoed something that his own wife had said earlier in the week. Given her unique perspective on proximity to the presidency, she believed that Trump just simply couldn't cut it anymore.
And it's Jim DeFede. I just wanted to, it seemed as if the Obama speech at the convention built on his remarks that he gave at John Lewis's funeral just a couple of weeks earlier, that there's a through line here of really feeling as if our democracy isn't at risk.
Yeah, and I had wondered, Jim, given that he had made similar remarks just a few weeks ago at that funeral, whether he could sort of reiterate that again in a way that was effective and would sort of, cut through. But given the time of day he did it, given from where he did it, given the profound concern that he was expressing and that sharp rebuke of the president, it is likely that this one did resonate and break through. But I think to Eliott's earlier point, I'm still very curious to see whether beyond motivating Democrats, if it did anything to potentially expand the pool of potential Biden supporters. And look, Democrats know that in places like Florida, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, all they really do need to do is drive out traditional Democratic voters that didn't vote 4 years ago, be they white, black, Latino, whatever. And if they show up in numbers that they normally would have, they would have won the White House 4 years ago, and they could potentially win it this fall.
And now, pre-pandemic, President Obama's speech last night likely would have been met with loud cheers, maybe quite a few standing ovations, but definitely not so with this virtual convention format. Now, having covered the convention in 2016, I know the attendees really leave energized to go back to their home states, rally the vote, get that momentum going. Now, with this unconventional convention, do you think it's going to translate to viewers for boosting momentum going into November?
They claim they've gotten the viewers they expected and they wanted. It's spread out not just across television, but now more importantly to them, digital platforms as well, because this was available over streaming devices, over your phone. And they know that a lot of Democratic voters are younger, perhaps a little more tech savvy, may not have a cable subscription, so they found ways to reach them. I don't know quite how we're going to measure the success of this. We've been asking that question this week and don't necessarily get a great answer. It'll probably be in fundraising. It'll be in the polling that comes out in a week to 10 days after the Republican event next week that gives them some sense of whether Biden saw a bit of a bounce or didn't really see much of a change at all. But I do sense that given the style of speeches that have been given the way that people had to reach out to watch them, that this probably served more as a base motivator than potentially convincing other people who might have still been on the fence. And there are very few people who are, especially in places like South Florida. At this point, most Americans have made up their mind either about the president or Biden. And they may be voting for Biden because they like him. They may be voting for Biden because he's simply not the president. And in the next few weeks, it's likely to just become a conversation about how you vote, how you plan to vote, rather than who you're voting for.
Ed, looking ahead to tonight, it seems to me that Joe Biden has to come out there and convince people why they should be excited about him in the White House. Do you expect that that's going to be the focus, or are we going to hear more Trump bashing, which we have heard over and over the last few days?
We are told to expect quickly, guys, that he will focus more on himself and what he would do as president, less on attacking the president, because he's done plenty of that so far and will in the coming days. And there's been plenty of conversation about the president over the course of the week.
Our thanks to CBS News' Ed O'Keefe and our colleague Jim DeFede. Remember, CBS live coverage of the Democratic National Convention begins at 10 p.m. tonight right here on CBS 4.